again, as a business owner, especially as a solopreneur, as a solo business owner, you are the business. Everything, your health literally dictates how well your business is run. So if you are exhausted, your business is not going to do much because you simply cannot function properly. So, and that's the case whether you have dealt with mental health issues before, whether you discovered them during COVID and you're like, oh, hello, anxiety is a thing, or whether you've dealt with it for years, or it's only now becoming a thing because you've only just started a business recently. Whatever the case may be, exhaustion can happen to anyone.
Running a successful business often means dealing with stress, burnout, and exhaustion. That's why prioritizing your mental health at work is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. Hi, I'm Leanna Lee.
I'm Mike Vini, and this is Bettermental. Join us as we share tools, tips, and strategies to help you build better systems for health and business growth.
Ready?
Let's get to work.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Bettermental. So today we are on our second episode of our 3-episode series. And if you haven't tuned in to the previous episode, let me give you a quick breakdown. We are talking about stress, exhaustion, and burnout and how to manage all three. So we wanted to kind of cover the whole spectrum. If you've been anywhere in the world in the past year, you understand what one or all of these conditions look like, whether at work or at home. So we wanted to kind of cover what this looks like from a business and personal perspective and kind of dive deep into where stress comes from, what it looks like for us as business owners, me and Mike, and how we manage it day to day, and just some tips to help you take care of it in your business and in your personal life. So last time we talked about stress management, and today we are talking about exhaustion. Now, Mike, how about you tell us what exhaustion is and where that fits into the stress management spectrum?
Oh, great question. And we just ate food. And so I'm feeling a little tired.
I'm a little tired too, like post lunch.
As we're doing the exhaustion episode here. But it was really good sushi. So thank you for recommending that place. But
no problem.
Exhaustion is when you're tired all the time. And, it's one thing to get tired at night like normal, but you're just tired all the time during the day. Maybe you're starting to pass out, feel like you have to take naps. And it's actually the next stage of stress. So stress, just to review, is your body's response to stimuli in the environment. And if you don't manage that, you'll get to the point of exhaustion when you're just tired all the time. And it's important to know the symptoms like, for example, brain fog, fatigue, or difficulty sleeping, or just any other unhealthy habits that you need to be focused for. Maybe you're behind the wheel of a car and you're just constantly making little errors on the road. This is why it's really important to address your exhaustion and get some help for it. And the reality is, as business owners, we have stuff to do. And sometimes we have to muscle through certain things, So exhaustion is a really important thing to address. And if you don't, it's going to lead to burnout. And that's what we don't want for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And last time I talked about kind of what stress looks like for me. So as someone who deals with mental health issues every day, one of those is anxiety, right? And as I mentioned last time, anxiety is kind of stress on steroids without the stressors. Like you don't need the stress, the stimuli to be anxious, right? It just happens. It's just one of those things that your brain does. Now, as someone with situational anxiety, my anxiety mirrors stress a little more, and then I kind of need some of those causes to kind of trigger it. Some of it is still kind of low level, kind of sitting there without anything to bring it about. But some of it comes as a result of these really specific incidents that will happen throughout my day. And it's usually like a snowball effect, right? Well, exhaustion is what happens when that snowball gets so big that I just can't manage it in my day-to-day life.
What does that look like?
Yeah, because, okay, so last time I kind of talked you through some things in my day that could add up to stress, right? So that's like getting up too late when I have a long day, realizing that I have some calls, maybe a client comes to me with last minute edits, and then to crown it all, maybe I forgot to do laundry, or there are too many dishes in the sink, or there's always like one thing that just tips it over the precipice. And that's where I get that snowball effect. Well, exhaustion sets in when that has happened for multiple days in a row, multiple weeks in a row. Oh man, last year, I mean, everyone was exhausted in the first couple waves of COVID, but I had several months where I was just flat out working because a lot of freelancers like me, especially writers, we weren't sure where our next project or gig was coming from. So a lot of us were just working so hard at what work we can find. We were just hyper focused on that. And then when the work dried up or we had some downtime, and you know how this works, Mike, the second you slow down when you're in hyper drive, you crash.
Yep.
And that's how exhaustion works, especially for freelancers, I feel like, and business owners. I feel like we get ourselves into oh my God, what is it Star Trek? Where the ship goes into like warp speed. Thank you. Yes. So the ship goes into warp speed, but it can only sustain that for a certain time, right? Like I imagine people would just die after a while because it's like being in a black hole. It just zips you across the universe.
They go into black holes on Star Trek and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't watched those Star Trek. I just remember the warp speed. Anyway, so that's what it felt like last year, is that being on warp speed, but you can't sustain that. You run out of fuel, it's not sustainable. And then eventually you had to slow down, whether it was the client project kind of wrapped up or you were just too tired to make it work or whatever. Eventually you slowed down and it just caught up with you and you realized that you were exhausted. So for me, like I said, longer work weeks. During COVID, it was like longer work months. And big projects one after the other. And then essentially what it came down to was that I just went too long without taking care of myself and putting my mental health first. So I also have PTSD. And the problem with sustained exhaustion and PTSD is I tend to have dissociative episodes. So we talked about being present in the last episode, where stress can kind of cause you to hyper-focus on something that's not in the present moment. And it makes it difficult for you to stay grounded and to just relax into whatever space you're in. Well, if you have PTSD or any condition that kind of triggers dissociative episodes, your mind just goes elsewhere entirely. It cannot focus on the present at all. And it may not even be stress. It's just gone. It's just not really available to you at that moment. And your emotions go with it too. And that's kind of the danger, is that you can't react in an emotional manner that is consistent with what's going on around you. So you may just completely miss social cues. It may be difficult to react to what's happening in conversation. You may seem completely apathetic, whatever the case may be. If you're alone, you may just kind of feel numb. And it's kind of a rough place to be. But I found that sometimes it's your body's way of saying, yeah, we just need to rest, guys. We don't have enough energy for this. I'm going to go on vacation. I will see you in a bit. I'll be back, maybe. And then I'm just kind of left with brain fog. So that's kind of what exhaustion looks like to me. My brain essentially just goes on vacation and it gives me warning, but I don't usually listen to it. So it's usually like, bye, I told you I was going on vacation and you didn't listen. So now I'm gone. See ya.
Wow.
What about you? Does that ring any bells?
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize, I get it. And I think I don't ever associate the word disassociative episodes, but I understand what you're talking about because it happens to me. I struggle with major depressive disorder. And when I start to spiral down the rabbit hole, one of the first things my therapist checks in on is my sleep. My friends who know about my mental health check on my sleep, because when I am not sleeping, oh my gosh, I really start to go down a bad place with my mental health. And so it's important that I monitor my exhaustion. Now, there have been times, because prior to the pandemic and post-pandemic, I'm going to speak it into existence.
Yes, please.
Post-pandemic, I would be traveling all the time, sometimes 3 weeks out of the month, going to different hotels. And I remember there was a point in time where I would just get off a plane, just get to the hotel room and just pass out. That was it. There were times where I missed flights in the airport because I was taking a little cat nap and just totally, went out because, I was tired all the time and didn't realize it. And I would try to mitigate that with coffee. that was my thing to.
Ooh, that caffeine cycle is
caffeine cycle.
Man, it can really get you.
It really can. And there's this coffee product. I'm not going to comment on it like being good or bad. I don't know enough about it, called Bulletproof Coffee. And,
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, and the sound of that sounds so good to me when I'm exhausted. But the thing is, it takes place over many days. It starts affecting my work. In my case, I have trouble checking email and responding to email. Like a basic, will you be able to call me tomorrow at this time? Might take a while. I'm sure there's times where I haven't even gotten back to you.
Oh, yes.
And
to be completely transparent, yes.
Yeah.
We definitely have communication issues, I think, when your mental health is kind of at a low ebb.
Right.
I think both of us have communication issues.
Both of us, yes.
Missing cues everywhere, missing calls, rescheduling calls.
And we had a few of those in the past several months.
Yeah,
but it's not the norm. And the reality is we're able to bring it back to earth, ground ourselves. And
rely on each other too.
Yes.
Which is great.
Well, we have great communication with it. But the important thing, though, I believe, is that we both have tools to use to get ourselves out of the exhaustion phase. That's the real important thing. If you are there, you need to get yourself out of it. So how do you get yourself out of exhaustion?
Well, I don't actually, but I'm going to disagree with you there, because I don't actually believe that you can just get yourself out of exhaustion.
Really?
Yeah. So what I found is, and you talking about your depression. So I mentioned PTSD. I also deal with depression along with anxiety and PTSD. And as I mentioned in the last episode, that if I don't arrest the stress by managing it properly, then it cycles down into a depressive episode, which is where kind of the brain fog, so the PTSD and depression kind of converge. And that's where I get the brain fog and dissociative episodes, because that's where the brain is just like, you know what, fuck it. Fuck it, I'm done.
Yep.
We've had 3 mental health conditions. 3. I did not sign up for this. I can deal with 1 at a time, but I'm not dealing with all 3. So fuck you, I'm out. And that's where exhaustion comes. And more like burnout, but that starts with exhaustion. But my point is, I think there is a point with exhaustion where you kind of have to just deal with what's there. So you've probably got some pretty bordering on moderate to severe physical symptoms, like trouble sleeping, difficulty focusing on work, difficulty, being productive throughout the day, constantly tired. And that's something you have to manage in that moment. We are past the point of just, let me set up systems to manage this better next time, or preventative stuff to do better all the time. And no, you have to handle what's in front of you. And then once you're feeling a little bit better, once you're on a slightly more even keel, then you can start to manage it and do proactive preventative work. So that's what I found.
So let me ask you this hypothetical situation. I'm exhausted and I'm just passing out at work, brain fog. What do I do at that point? Just
honestly, you have to admit that things aren't going well, and you have to switch things up in order to take care of yourself. You have to be the priority. So as a business owner, right, we are the owner, we are the manager, we are the team leader, and we are the employee. We're like every person in that business in one body, unless you have staff, in which case, some of those roles have been passed on to the people who work for you, the contractors who work with you, the staff that work for you. But you have all these responsibilities, right? But if you're exhausted, you can't perform them well. So you have to take an honest look at yourself and say, yeah, this isn't working. I need to do something about this. So basically what it comes down to is, what do you need in that moment? You're exhausted. You're really tired. You're struggling with fatigue. You're struggling with focus and productivity. You need a break. So
a what?
A break.
What's
Let
that?
me say it again, business owners. You need a break. So what does that look like? Okay, that can look like several different things. Step 1, it can look like taking a look at your schedule today, just today, short term, just today. You have on the schedule, what do you need to accomplish? Do you have a deadline? Do you have a project due? Do you need to do some strategy work? Was there business stuff you were supposed to take care of? Can you switch that around today to prioritize what I call low brain work? And that means work that will not take a lot of energy or a lot of time to complete. So for me, that looks like maybe some quick edits. Maybe I invoice a client quickly. Maybe I update a couple things. Maybe I do some like admin tasks. It does not mean heavy strategic work or client work, because that would take a lot more energy and time. So what I would do is like switch up my day, prioritize lower brain tasks just so I can let my brain rest a little bit. The next step up from that is taking an actual break. And that may mean moving a deadline. That may be honestly admitting to a client that you're having a rough time. Maybe when I have a rough time, when I'm dealing with a mental health ebb, sometimes I'll tell clients, I'm dealing with a medical emergency. Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with a personal emergency. I'm dealing with a family emergency. Whatever it takes to give myself some space. And I've never had a client say no, not once. Especially in the past year and a half, like none of us have. We all understand at this point.
It's been a lot of grace.
Yes. There's been a lot of graciousness. And I think that is what I need to see in the workforce from here on out. I really hope that graciousness continues, because that is just so, so important. So I really, really encourage you, if you're currently dealing with exhaustion, please take a look at your schedule, rearrange the rest of your day, look at how you can lighten your load for the next few days, and kind of as a third step, see what you can do to take time off in the next few weeks. And that may look like just one day with no work. That may look like a weekend where you have Friday, Saturday off, a long weekend, even a week, whatever you can do. But your brain is telling you we need some time away from this to focus on ourselves. So that is before you do anything, before you start on any kind of even identifying where the exhaustion comes from, where the stress comes from, before any of that happens, please rearrange your schedule. That's where I would start. But identification is really important.
That's where to start. I'm thinking of driver's ed or taking driving class, defensive driving maybe.
Defensive driving.
And one of the things I learned, I don't remember the exact words they use, were that if you drive and you're really tired, it's the equivalent
of driving drunk.
Yeah. And so that, really speaks to the work we're doing here, because in our businesses, we have to make some big decisions sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I recommend people don't make big decisions when they're super tired, because you might end up regretting the decision later. And I just want to go back to what you said about taking a break. A break might be out of your reality at the moment, but the moment you can, even stepping outside, sitting on the grass for just 3 minutes and just being silent, being still. Break does not mean get on your mobile device, though.
No, that's true.
A lot of times people think break, and there's a cultural habit we have of just taking out that device. Mm-hmm. Chances are when we finish this recording, I might check my phone. We just do that. That's a thing in our culture. So I think it's important to take breaks and just practice pausing throughout the day and making that a habit. Very important. But I want to bring up sleep.
Yes.
One of the lessons that I've learned from other entrepreneurs and my own experience is getting your sleep is so important. It really is. And this means getting to sleep at a reasonable time that works for you. I also think it's important to set up your bedroom for sleep. Oh. That means avoiding working in bed. Whenever I can, I try to not have a mobile device in the bedroom.
How do you feel about TVs in the bedroom?
Oh my gosh, I think...
Because some people really can't live without that, but I've always felt like that's so counterproductive.
No. Oh gosh, I can't believe it.
Because every hotel you've probably ever been to has a TV.
I think I can't believe I'm about to say this. I think the TV has evil spirits coming from it, so I cover it up. I'm serious.
I know you are.
I totally cover it up.
Do you have like a special cloth in every hotel? You just like bathrobe.
It's like I don't need you here. Yeah, and I'm right. Even if there's something very tempting about it, even if it's off, to start thinking. But the other thing is just making sure that my room is my room for sleep. I also have a diffuser where I diffuse lavender oil. I travel. I carry a diffuser with me. So at the hotel right now, it's a travel diffuser next to the bed with lavender oil. Oh, wow. So it helps relax me to get me to sleep at night. So I think it's really important to engineer your sleep. It's going to take some time.
Can I add a quick comment to that?
Sure.
Do you know what a chronotype is?
A corona?
Chrono.
No, I'm joking.
No. Okay, alcohol is not going to help with exhaustion, guys, since he brought that up. No, chronotype. So I know we've talked about this before, but so chronotype is people fall into different chronotypes, as in times of day where they have high energy and low energy, right? And we'll talk about this later in another episode about energy management. But just a quick comment is that everyone tends to have times of day where they're more productive and get more done and they're more focused, and times when they just really need to relax and rest or sleep. My husband is more of a night owl. He has different types of productivity than I do. I'm a morning person. But how this is relevant is with sleep schedule, it's so important to know your chronotype and kind of what your ebb and flow is throughout the day, because exhaustion, part of that could be based on you working through low energy hours. And I was thinking of that because another sign of exhaustion for me is me working not only usually longer work days or longer work weeks means I'm working through those low energy hours. That means my body desperately needs that downtime. I'm not giving it to it. So it's just it's not given that time to relax and de-stress. So then over time that builds up, and then it's like, fuck you. We're done.
Yeah.
We're just gonna shut down now. So I think so again, chronotype, if you look it up, try and see where you fit. And if your workday is not fitting with that, that may be a reason that your stress is built up so much that you're exhausted, because you're just working too much and too far into those times, cutting into those times.
Yeah. No, we talk about that a lot. And even, I think we plan our calls.
Yeah, we do. We do. I tell him I cannot take calls at certain times because I'm just really,
and you try to
really bitchy at certain times of day.
You try to get me in the morning, and I'm like, no.
Generally. Yeah. And you try to get me in mid-afternoon. I'm like, nope.
Yeah. So we have times at work. Evening calls. Yeah. But it works. But the important thing is to make sure you're getting the sleep. The other thing I want to bring up is taking naps. And naps are really good to take, but generally the shorter the nap, the better. I think once it goes over 20 minutes, you start to fall into that deep sleep. But setting your alarm for 20 minutes or 10 minutes and just lying down, again, it's not like a good night's sleep, but it can help you keep your energy throughout the day. The other thing I want to bring up is exercise. When you're exhausted, I know you're tired. Why should you even think about trying to exercise? But exercise can actually help you regulate your body's systems, get the circulation going, get the brain moving, get the brain thinking, get the brain repairing and all that stuff. So it's really important to get your exercise in, even if it's just a walk.
Yeah, because you mentioned just sometimes going outside.
Yeah.
Because, as Mike mentioned, not everyone has the ability to take a break, right? We can't all rearrange our schedules that day. We can't all take breaks. But sometimes just having 45 minutes, an hour, even 30 minutes away from the desk outside, just walking around, that can help kind of center you a little bit and kind of help your body sort of slip back into some kind of routine.
Yes.
And then help you get back into a normal sleep schedule.
You're right. And jet lag is a big thing too for me.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I flew here to Chicago. One of the things that I did.
Did you have jet lag from New York to Chicago?
I think I'm just not used to flying because of 14 months of not doing it. But one of the first things that I do, usually the evening or the day after I arrive in the morning, is went to the hotel gym to work out. And I do that to stabilize my body and get my sleep on schedule as best I can. And it really, really helps. So it's really important to do that. Once you are in a better place mentally, it's important to think about systems and prepare systems that you can set up in your business so you can manage your stress more effectively. Systems help people. There's so much automation that people don't realize they can do. And it doesn't mean you need to hire a whole staff for it. Sometimes it's a software that can actually help you. So it's really important to do that. But as we wrap up, I want to bring up a hashtag.
What hashtag is that, Mike?
The hustle hashtag.
He said that with such fire in his eyes.
Oh, because you know what? I have posted it on social media. Here's the thing. We live in this culture that talks about hustle all the time. And we see that as a symbol of success, something to aspire to, hustle. But hustling all the time is a dead end. It really, really is. And there's a thing called focused imbalance. And this happens like if someone's in law school taking the bar exam, usually for a year, they're studying. They can't talk to anybody. They can't go hang out.
No social life. Yeah.
But once they pass that bar exam, and they start getting a job as a lawyer, they can go back to a more normal schedule. Then there's the all-nighter. Some of us have had to pull the all-nighter for a client. But when an all-nighter becomes a once-a-week thing or, every other day thing, that's problematic. So it's really important to get this stuff under control.
Yeah, so it makes sense for some of these things, again, like all-nighters. Maybe you have a really big project that you're working on full-time and you have to just go straight at it for a few months. That is a normal part of the business life, right? We all get into we get these opportunities and we don't want to pass them up. Or we really want to take a longer break. And this is what we have to do to get there. We have to meet those income goals. We have to wrap up those projects, whatever the case may be. And that's okay. But again, as you said, Mike, the problem comes when it becomes consistent, and consistent stress is what causes exhaustion. That is where you get to the point where you're so fatigued that you're really starting to struggle with daily function. And that's really the thing, is that, again, as a business owner, especially as a solopreneur, as a solo business owner, you are the business. Everything, your health literally dictates how well your business is run. So if you are exhausted, your business is not going to do much because you simply cannot function properly. So, and that's the case whether you have dealt with mental health issues before, whether you discovered them during COVID and you're like, oh, hello, anxiety is a thing, or whether you've dealt with it for years, or it's only now becoming a thing because you've only just started a business recently. Whatever the case may be, exhaustion can happen to anyone. But the key is not to let it get to you, not to let it overwhelm you, because again, we come back to identifying the source. We talked about this in the last episode, so I really encourage you to listen to that. You can break down the sources of your stress and identify those sources through a bunch of different methods and become much more aware of your feelings, of the types of stress that you can be subject to, where they might be coming from, and how they can affect you and your business. So, but once you've reached the point of exhaustion, that's when it really starts to be an issue, because you have to kind of address the current symptoms and get out of that exhaustion cycle before you start management. So, and we've talked about, systems like sleep schedule, chronotypes, exercising. These are all systems that you can put in place to prevent stress, to prevent exhaustion. And again, that should really be the priority, because if you are the business, you are the priority. Your health is the priority. So you have to take care of yourself to run a business successfully. So yeah, that's really what we have for exhaustion. I really hope that you got something out of this. And yeah, do you have anything else for us, Mike?
Yeah, the next episode, we're going to be talking about burnout. And burnout is when you just can't.
If you think exhaustion was bad, welcome to burnout.
This is why, you shouldn't have to listen to that episode. If you take care of your stuff in this episode.
Stop here and you won't need the next one.
You won't need the next episode.
Just go back to stress and you've got this.
Exactly.
If you haven't managed to deal with exhaustion yet, episode 3 is for you.
Yes, we will see you in it. But no, thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. And we will see you in the next episode.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more about the resources we mentioned or connect with special guests by checking out today's show notes at bettermental.fm.
And if you liked this episode, keep in touch by following us on your favorite podcast app. In the meantime, we'd love to hear what you think about the show. So DM or mention us on Twitter at BettermentalFM.
Thanks again, and see you next time.